What's up, summoners? Coach Brandon here, and today I'll be talking about your mid-game priorities should be in the jungle. Understanding what to do in the mid-game can make the difference between winning and losing, despite what happened in the early game. If you have any questions, be sure to shoot me a message on Discord, and I'll make sure to get back to you. Okay, let's get into the video. To warm up, you should practice clearing your jungle with 1 or 2 items so that you can get used to what your clear is like in the mid-game. You should also practice taking the dragon and the herald solo so that you get a feel for your damage output on objectives at this point in the game. Knowing how much damage you do in the mid-game is extremely important, as you can make a lot of decisions based on how fast you know you can take things, and will help you map out a plan for the rest of the game. First, we should focus on if your team is ahead in the early game. If your team is winning ahead in the mid-game, you want to focus on taking the enemy jungler out of the game. What I mean by this is you should make it impossible for the enemy jungler to play the game. There are multiple ways that you can do this. 1. Assuming you have a lead, you and your team should walk into the enemy jungle and take all the camps. Make sure that the other team gets none of that XP and gold. 2. You should look to take all the objectives on the map so your opponents have no easy way back into the game. Stacking objectives on your opponents is the easiest way to put a timer on the game and apply a great deal of pressure. Doing these 2 things will make the enemy jungler become invisible, and they will have a really hard time staying relevant in the game. And a team without a jungler is a team that is destined to lose. Next, we need to talk about what to do if your team is behind heading into the mid-game. The 2 things I would recommend focusing on when you are behind the mid-game are 1. Take whatever objectives you can get. If you can get any dragons, heralds, or towers, try to take what you can to alleviate some pressure from your team. You should get your whole team to commit to take an advantageous fight over an objective that will get your team back into the game. The best way to do this is to take something while the enemy team is busy doing something else. What I mean by this is if you know the opponents have committed a few members to taking a dragon, your team should attempt to take a top turret or 2. Number 2. Set up bush cheeses. Bush cheeses are very good ways to get back into the game and collect some bounty gold. Clear vision with your team around an area that you know will be contested and just wait for the enemies to make a mistake and walk into your trap. Getting free kills like this can cause a snowball effect and turn the game on its head. If the game is relatively even around the mid-game point, then you want to look at objectives to show your plan forward. What I mean by this is normally by the mid-game, one team has control over the dragons, while the other team normally has control over the grubs. Knowing which one you have control over should determine what your next plan of action is. If you're up on drags, then you want to focus on getting your dragon soul, as that is going to be the best way to buff your team and the endgame. If you control the grubs, then you want to focus on using them to take towers and apply map pressure through having your lanes pushed so that your team can control the map. This should give your team an effective gold lead that you can then use to take dragons and the baron to end the game through map control and pushing power. Identifying what your win condition is going into the mid game sets the stage for the rest of the match, so getting proper practice making those calls will make the world of difference in your ranked matches. Again, I'm Coach Brandon, and today we went over how to know what to prioritize in the mid game as a jungler. As always, good luck out there, summoners, and I'll see you all on the Rift.